Sige. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Ay, wait lang. Sorry. Ayan. Hello.
Hi, Teddy.
Are we required to show our faces ba or not naman for this record?
Ideally, yeah.
Sige. Naka-ready eh. Alright, sige. I'll share the slides. Hold on ah. Jill, I'll share na lang yung online slides if it's okay.
Sige.
Para we can edit it. Okay, hold on. Sige, I'm starting to share the slides. Please let me know if you can see the PowerPoint.
Yes, okay na.
Yes, okay na.
All right, so I guess we can start.
Sige. Okay, so, good evening, everyone. Well, I hope everyone's doing well today. So, Teddy and I will be presenting information systems strategy, which it will cover the following. Uh, Next slide, please, Teddy. Okay, so we'll be covering what is information systems strategy, and then next, the strategy and business strategy integration, and then, of course, the tools that we'll be using for strategic analysis and definition. So, to give us a brief introduction about the topic, Teddy will start the presentation. And also, maybe just to set everyone's expectation, meron pala kami activity ni Teddy today. So, baka kasi magulat kayo. Pero short lang naman. It's gonna be quick para lang, interactive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jill. Sige, so yeah, I guess just to connect it to the other topics that Sir Chippy previously shared, no, since we're discussing systems design. So basically, previously, kasi the topics were like acquiring and developing the information systems, the initiation, the analysis and designs, and previously, I think we discussed about the build, the implementation, and maintenance part, right? So obviously, in that context, this chapter actually is now focused on the fundamentals of information system strategy. So all of the discussions will revolve around what is strategy. So siguro for the first part, of course, we need to define what is a strategy, no? So in the chapter, here are a few of the descriptions of what is a strategy. So first is it's a development of a plan to deceive or outwit an enemy. Um, in terms of corporate strategy, it is basically how to be com- um, to compete with the market, how to make yourself competitive, and in also in the chapter it defines it as the future direction and the actions of the company as it approaches to its specific objectives. So, in that context, bear in mind so far that these are the definitions. Um, in the sorry, in the article as well, it also explains different concepts. First is um, in the application portfolio. Of course, an organization, may it be a new company or like an old running company or an organization. So usually we have different ranges of different systems, right? Especially the business information systems. So usually in a company, we there's a mention of an IT strategy and an IS strategy. So we just mentioned this in the slide so that we can differentiate what's the difference between the two. Because in the document, we've noticed that it's used interchangeably, or at least it's linked to each other. Um, so it's best that at the start we define it already para we have a common understanding what's the difference. So first, the IT strategy, um, it's a strategy to determine the most appropriate infrastructure of information technology. So this is comprises the hardware, what are the networks, and the software applications. While the information strategy, it's actually how IT is actually applied um, in an organization. So it the strategy here is the one that determines the processes and resources to ensure that the information supports the business strategy. So as you've seen in the different terms and definitions, there are a lot of mentions of business strategy, information technology strategy, information system strategy. So that's why actually in the latter part, Jill will explain the integration because technically these are all linked together. Um, so basically, in an organization, no, um, its strategy are always rooted at four areas. So this is the vision, mission, strategies, and the policy. So I think you guys are very familiar with these kinds um, of topics. Usually, when you join an institution, when you join an organization or a company, you're usually handed out like a part of your kit, onboarding kit, like what's the vision and the mission of your company, and what are the strategies or policies, right? So, vision is the image of the direction of the company or the institution that everyone can follow and remember. While the mission is a statement on how you make yourself different, or how do you want to achieve um, the goal, basically. And then the strategies are the different sequence of um, processes, or in here it defines it as a sequence of consistent resource allocations that defines the organization relationships with its environment. And then the policies are just the procedures and how you carry out the strategy. So as Jill mentioned, we will have an activity. So remember how do you pronounce it, Lascelles? The LFFL case study that we had before. Do you guys still remember? We'll have a little bit of role playing. As you can see, I think we're eight in the group. Tama ba? Complete
Yeah,
attendance tayo today. Ayan. So, basically, the activity is we'll do a little bit of role playing where we will have like a roulette later to make it random para fair for all. We will check it, and then whoever is assigned, we will mark it as part of the sales. Well, basically the four departments as stated um, in the case study. So the first one to be mentioned will be the head, the sales and marketing head. The second will be the staff. So ganun lagi. The next two people mentioned will be the warehousing distribution head, and then the next one is the staff, and so on. So siguro pa-help na lang.
yeah. I'll edit the
uh
slide now.
yeah, thank you. Ayan, so para medyo magising tayo, let's do a spin activity. So the first two will be the sales and marketing. Tama ba?
Sales and
Yeah,
marketing.
sales marketing. Ayan. Yan. Ang nanalo ay si Vlad. So Vlad,
Uh,
take note. You will be our sales and marketing head, and then the next one will be Emerico. So you will be our sales and marketing staff. So Vlad will be your boss. Sige. So what's the next? Warehousing and distribution. Sino ang head ng warehousing and distribution? Ayan. So si Chris ang ating
yes.
warehousing and distribution head. Yung assistant niya or part of his team would be ay nawala yung ano ko. JM. All right. Next is
Um,
sorry, na.
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing head would be Gerald. Congratulations. And then part of your team, as part of your manufacturing team, would be yan, si Mr. President, si Joshua. Okay, so the last two will be part of, sorry, what team again?
Finance.
Finance na. Sorry na, hindi ko ba natanggal si Joshua? Sorry.
So si Lance and
Lance
Christine.
and Christina na lang. Ayan. So Lance will be the um the finance head, and then Christina will be the finance officer or staff. Okay, so going back to the slides, guys, did you remember na guys your positions? The reason why we had this activity is because remember again that the LFFL company, we just made this out. We just made this up, no? Para lang we have something to think about. So the vision of the company, well, we are all together as part of this company, the LaSalle's Fine Foods. Our vision is to take cautious steps to ensure that all our products reach our customers in the utmost best and fresh conditions, to deliver straight to you, to foster a healthy, wholesome, nourishing, and flourishing lifestyle. Next. The vision naman of our company is to be recognized as a leading distinctive brand of fresh and quality food makers offered to customers at the most reasonable and affordable price. So thinking about the strategy, about the different vision and mission of our company, you as part of the company, um, we should be able to cascade down to the level of our departments, thinking about our mission and vision for the company, and come up with at least our own functional strategies, right? So, for example, as part of the sales strategy, the goal really is to be consistent, require consistent, high quality food, right? Um, Service, speed, and atmosphere. So, what could be the steps for you to be able to meet the strategy? That would be hiring employees who are genuinely happy. Um, they to continuously assess the quality of all our food, the service, and speed. And of course, we interact with our customers personally and evaluate the food choices. So this is just an example. So the activity now is, um, given your department, guys, um, let's just have like a quick 2 minutes per group maybe, just to share in as part of the role play activity. What do you think could be our strategy, and the steps to reach this as sales and marketing? So let's first start with Vlad and Nico. Again, I shared here in the list a few issues that was mentioned um, um, in the case study. So first is yung life shelf shelf life no items, um, and then also yung stock level are not usually recorded correctly, and then the sales department. So your department right now, you don't often prioritize it correctly. Yung mga wala, yun pa usually yung nauuna. And then you usually bypass the normal process. No? So siguro, sorry to put you on spot, Vlad and Nico, but what do you think could be um, your strategy as part of the sales and marketing, and what could you think are the steps to address these issues? So maybe just an idea, and then you just say it loud, and then we'll just take note. So I just need the help of Jill, maybe just to take notes of what you think on top of your head right now could be a part of your strategy as part of the sales and marketing.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
Hi, Teddy. So, first off, I'm thinking based on bullet number one, with many items not being rotated properly, I think there should be a database for that,
Okay.
which should be recorded. And for actuals,
Uh-huh. All right. What else? Maybe Nico, you have also an idea. Sige, or maybe Vlad, if you have other suggestions, has since you're sales and marketing, what could be the other strategies that you can think of? So first is you to implement a database to ensure that you'd be able to see which items are almost expiring or something like that, right? So what else?
that's right. And I think the database should have like automated alerts
Okay,
to keep everything to track everything. So
all right, okay. Yeah. Um, Thank you, Vlad. Actually, that's a good idea. Maybe Nico, if we'll go back to you later, just to continue the the activity. Next, we go to warehousing and distribution. So this is now Chris and JM. So these are the types of issues that you had before. Yung status ng order cannot easily be determined without actually checking with the warehouse team. There are complaints on the customer because of the wrong deliveries. They're either late or incomplete. And also your department does not deliver the most. So I guess the priority orders. And then yeah, delayed as well because of manufacturing. Um, Again, with your dependency on the manufacturing side. So, given these issues, what do you think should be your um, yeah, sure, Jill. So, what do you think should be the strategy of or how you'd be able to address these issues as part of the warehousing and distribution? Any ideas?
Yeah, as the warehousing and distribution head, I'd like to definitely would like to invest more in warehouse automation.
Okay.
So we'd like to be able to increase the speed of order processing, product retrieval, and even shipping preparation. That's probably the top priority. The second would be getting the right warehouse management system. So we want to be able to definitely maintain an accurate record in terms of our available stocks,
Mm-hmm.
um, including coordination with other departments. The
Great.
third,
Yeah.
um, the third one I think would be to create an adaptable warehouse design. So we'd need our warehouse to have a design wherein our employees can work efficiently. So there should be there should be a right order of how our stocks are stored in the warehouse, um, catering to a more efficient way of delivering and then acquiring products and deliverables.
All right. These are really good ideas, Chris. How about you, JM? Do you agree with your
Hello.
boss?
I agree with my boss. I think in terms of I guess the first step for us, if ever we'll be having these kinds of problems, is really looking at the whole process itself. So I guess that's the in terms of before doing any specific system, but really looking at the inefficiencies of the current system. I guess that's uh, what I want to see moving forward. Like from this process, what's happening, how long is it taking, and then from there we can decide on which system that we're gonna implement. So for me, I will go for looking at the whole process first, looking at the inefficiencies, and then afterwards maybe making a suggestion or a strategy to solve uh, the most prominent problems. Because I think when I see the whole warehouse and distribution channel and in the warehouse, I guess maybe we need to fix internally first what our problems are before we can move into like buying or outsourcing the solution, a technical solution. So that's what I think is happening currently because my boss is not always here in the warehouse. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Great ideas as well, JM. Thank you for that. All right. So yeah. I think we've listed down all of what we've so far provided. Let's move now to the next team. Jill, would you like to take the lead?
Sure. Sige. Ayan. Well, for manufacturing naman, I think the issue that they're having is that the slow to respond dun sa mga needs or requests, especially pag may pressure na from the sales team, di ba? So, ang nangyayari, there's a lack of accurate forecasting. So, hindi nagmamatch or hindi nila na-deliver ng maayos yung mga, let's say, yung demand. So, ano kaya yung like strategy that we can, implement at least for the manufacturing department?
Ako na, di ba?
Yes, Sir Gerald as the manufacturing
Gerald.
head.
All right. I think one of the improvements that can be implemented would be an inventory system that has a risk management system. Like, for example, in your inventory system, you will have an inventory of your raw materials. At the same time, the number of requests that you have, and the system should be able to identify what are the risks. Like, for example, if we have a low stock of a specific raw materials, it should have automated alerts already and make sure that the threshold is accurate para based dun sa request ma-fulfill yung product or ma-manufacture yung product. And risk management software will be able to prioritize what requests are the urgent ones and what requests can be delayed. Yeah, those are the two systems that can be implemented to make sure to eliminate the waste or eliminate any unfulfilled requests.
Okay.
So, thanks, Gerald. And how about Josh? You support Gerald's idea.
Naka-mute ka, Josh.
Hi, Josh. Maybe siguro balikan na lang natin.
Sige.
Ayan. And then lastly is finance. So for Lance and Christina, so we all know naman for doing business, it all boils down to finance, di ba? So yung mga issues nila would be sales returns and then yung mga may utang sa kanila because of poor, credit control procedures. And then, of course, yung management of accounting. Kasi nga, di ba, ang daming issues with the other departments. I think that's also the cost of their finance issues. And then also yung mga accurate information. So, what we can, at least recommend or position as a strategy for the finance team.
Hi, hello.
Hi,
So,
Lance.
ang una nating
Sure,
gagawin dyan, yung mga account handlers na hindi sumusunod, may penalty. So, we'll put penalties on them. And we'll also give rewards to those who are able to fulfill the returns properly. For the second one, we'll if we can still recover, but if we can't, uh, just moving forward, we'll have like a master list of, I think this is for customers. So we'll have a master list of customers and their accounts and then for the third one, I think the overall naman nito is we'll have an accounting, well, a system that can do accounting for us, which will integrate the the data from the different departments. So once we have that, those different from the different departments, hopefully that will also answer the fourth one. So we can publish reports.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Max.
How about Christina?
Christina.
By trend movement and also improve the system and most of the warehouse.
Sorry, hello. I'm not
Sorry.
sure if it's
Hello.
just from me or medyo
Choppy yata.
choppy.
Akala ko sa akin, I'm sorry.
Sige, Christina, maybe you can also chat para we can copy paste your comments. And same also with Nico and Joshua later. If you have additional inputs for your departments, just provide it via chat in our group chat, and then we'll copy paste it in the slides.
Yeah. And then maybe later we could just share the slides na lang sa
Yeah.
class. So, ayun. Well, I guess that's the end of the activity, and the reason that we naggawa tayo ng activity, it is because well, related naman ka with the topic that we have today.
Yeah.
And yeah, Teddy will start to discuss yung strategies.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think because of, hopefully via the activity, we're able to think about like what's the relationship already, right, with the different strategies that we just mentioned. Actually, it's very high level. What we just mentioned. These are so far those are like our part of the strategies that we thought of how to address the issues and how to meet in relation to our company vision and mission, right? So in the this particular slide is just showing the relationship actually among the business strategies that we just mentioned. So what you just mentioned actually are part of the business strategy. In some terminologies, they define it as a functional strategy because it's part of the functions that you perform as the different departments. So if you notice the arrows, it's linked to each other, relating to how information is disseminated, the data is being passed on from one department to another, and also how it relates to the information technology strategy, which is again, as I defined earlier, what's the IT strategy? If you guys can remember, anyone, you'll get a prize. um, Sige. Sorry, anyone with what is IT strategy again?
Yeah, the IT strategy is more on the technical part. So the
Correct.
software, the hardware, the IS is the process, resources
Yes.
related to information system.
Good job, Chris. You're listening. So you get a prize on Saturday. Joke. Care of Jill. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
Milk tea.
Yeah. So I just would like to read how it was how this figure 13.1 is defined in the document. No, so business information technology strategy um, should be driven by the objectives of the business strategy, right? I'm sorry. Asan na tayo? My God, sorry. Yeah, and then the information system strategy naman is to be delivered by the business information system applications, which is should be driven by the different informations around, or like the information requirements as you've shared earlier one by one for your each other departments. Um, and finally, the IT strategy, which is the implementation of this um, information system, um, which is basically the delivery of the IT infrastructure. So I guess in essence, what it's just saying is that whatever um, in terms of the objectives of the corporate or the business strategy, it passes on to the different information system, information technology strategies. Um, it's basically linked to each other. So whatever you guys have shared earlier, each one of you have shared, obviously it has a relationship with something in terms of like a business issue, or um, how we want our company to be as part of the mission and vision. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how this particular slide, and what's the importance of the activity that we did, just for us to be able to think about applying it to the case study that we had before. So now let's go to the second part, which is really more on the information system, which is and the business strategy, which is really the main topic, right, of this chapter. So these are the typical questions when we develop the information system strategy. So first is what are the processes that we can follow to develop it? How can we ensure that the strategy of the information system supports our business strategy? So yeah, and then what are the tools that we can use to assess if, let's say, we have a current IS system, and then we try to integrate or add a future new system, what could be the tools that we can use to assess that it could be to our advantage, or will it actually destroy our business or something like that. So later at the third part of this discussion, actually the next slides, Jill and I will present 6 tools that we can use to assess the different information system strategies that we can use. And lastly, where should we locate the information systems function? And then, of course, up to what extent should some services be outsourced? So we'll also try to think about um, once we develop this the strategy in terms of the um, this part of the number 4 item. So this one actually we just wanted to go through quickly because while we create the IS strategies, we have to think about, of course, the different 7 R's as what the document said, right? Like we'll not really dwell on it. Let's just go through it quickly. So the reach part of strategy, this is because of the increasing globalization, right? The business, the strategy, the information system strategy that we should be able to choose should be able to cater to the globalization. So as we expand, regardless of geography, it should be able to help you get the accurate results at the right time, at the anywhere. Reaction naman, so as you know, customers are really becoming more demanding every day. So we should be able to have a system that can address this and interpret these feedbacks from the customers. Responsiveness, so we basically have an idea, we turn it into a product or service, and we can have a system that can easily help us market it in a or create a business or a product easily. Refinement, yeah, it just says here that the customers are getting more sophisticated and they really want a specific item. So the system should be able to to create and market the products very well to these specific customers. Reconfiguration, so yeah, it's just restructuring, re-engineering the the flow of how we'd be able to produce or create the service. And the document is just saying that um, the system should be able to help manage continually the evolving work patterns and structure of the business or the product or the service. Number six, redeployment. Um, it's just about changing an organization's configuration, require the redesigning of the different aspects, like the financial, the physical, the human and information resources, to create and market a product or service. So this part, it's just saying that the strategy system or the IS system should be able to maintain the relevant information for you to be able to do this. Um, and lastly, reputation is again due to the customer feedback, right, and experience. Um, the system or the strategy should be able to support the process of developing, testing, and the whole process from development to post sales, um, in terms of providing the customer the satisfaction on that product or service. So I just wanted to quickly go through, because at least you just have an idea of what the document wants to say, that there are 7 R's in um, creating an information system strategy. So here are now the different tools, which I think it's really the main or the heart of the chapter. No, um, so Jill, you would you like to start first with the three?
Sure. Okay. Siguro I'll share na lang
Okay, I'll
yung
unshare now.
screen.
Yeah.
Sige.
Oops. Paano ba mag-unshare? Ayun. Okay,
Wait lang.
and then I'll turn off my camera.
Okay, so yeah, I'll be covering the first three tools that is used for business information system strategy. So in order for us to come up with a strategy, we start by considering the tools that are mainly used to assess external environmental constraints, and also the strategy to assess that there are also existing internal situations that are used to generate options about future strategies. So the first one would be um, the Porter and Miller's five forces model. So for the five forces model, so it is here that it is a model for analyzing the different external competitive forces that affect an organization and how information can be used to counter them. So the first one, so it determines, so for the rivalry for between existing competitors, um, it determines the immediate competitive position of the business. So it will depend on the number of firms that is already in the industry, and of course, its maturity. So, for instance, a mature or declining industry will probably experience a high degree of rivalry, since survival is the key that is at stake. So, di ba, for example, sa mga mobile phones or sa mga smartphones, um, sobrang dami na nilang nagko-compete doon sa market. So the next one would be the new entrant. So to an industry that it will cause the existing competitive situation to be disrupted. So siguro I would take Xiaomi as an example that disrupted the market. So hindi lang actually sa smartphones, even with the other um, mga equipment. Actually, mga like e-bike or scooter ba yun, meron na rin sila electric vacuum, mga network network switch, parang sila yung high-end na CDR king before, na they have everything na pwede nilang i-offer, na maganda yung, well, kaibahan lang niya sa CDR king is maganda yung quality ng Xiaomi, I guess, compared with CDR king. And at the same time, yung presyo is mababa. So it has been evident in many countries, like over the last few years, that where many of the formerly nationalized industries, which were privatized, are now facing competition that they never have faced before. And then also the threat of substitute. So it already exists within the industry, but because of differentiation, they're not quite perfect substitutes for each other. So the danger here would be the company may lose market share if a rival can supply the substitute that can, more closely matches the needs of certain customers. And then of course the power of buyers. So the customer is king. So in especially in the business area where there are relatively few of them. So it can exert power by threatening to switch their purchasing to an alternative supplier. So, di ba, kahit naman sa atin, di ba, pag ayaw natin yung service, gusto mo mag-cancel na lang ako, I'll go with other providers. I think that's what it explains about the fourth model dito sa, I mean, from Porter and Millers. And then lastly, we have the power of supplier. So it appears to it's a little odd given the previous point that since a business is going back to be the customer to its suppliers, so there's still competitive pressures to be addressed. So for instance, in a situation where a material isn't short supply, so a business is going to be at risk from its competitors bidding up material prices and suppliers selling to the highest bidder. So maybe as an example would be the worldwide shortage of PC memory in the early 90s. So where computer manufacturers effectively had to endure a large hike in prices if they will still manufacture and sell personal computers. So um, on the next slide, it's still part of the Porter and Miller's five forces model. So um, what we can do for us to to at least uh, um, parang hindi kumbaga makapag-generate tayo at least ng mga strategy natin based on the five forces model. So kung makikita natin dito from the center, so we have the business and its external threats. So the first one, of course, for the extent of rivalry within the industry. So the higher the cost, the the higher or the greater the extent of rivalry within the industry, the higher the cost that it will incur by a business as it seeks to compete with its rivals. So, for example, industry rivalry will be profoundly influenced by the positioning of its products in both the industry and product life cycles. So, in a declining industry, collaborative efforts between industry rivals may help reduce costs or raise the profile of the industry. And then next, we have the financial services industry are competing increasingly on um, the basis of quality and service. So information systems that are one enabler in this process. Here, we have two aspects of competition that can deter potential entrants. So if they themselves have to make a significant investment in such systems, they can hope to compete successfully. So that enters in the threat of new entrants. And then for the third one would be for the substrate. So um, if there's also a greater threat if there are substitute products that are as close as an alternative. Kasi pwedeng mag-switch, like, believe yung mga customers, kung mas okay pala dito, parang parehas lang naman. And then for the fourth one, so um, we have the power of buyers. But what we can do is we can lock those customers into company's products so we can reduce the risk of the customers switching to our rival. So if a supplier believes that its customers will always buy from um sorry, if kung gusto nilang ma-lock yung customers, pwede nila ma-reduce um yung yung ganong factor. If let's say, for instance, a business specializing in organizing corporate travel, so they may locate terminals, or at least they can place terminals within the building as its main corporate customers, so that they will be more likely to book flights, hotels, and car hire with the company rather than a competitor kasi mayroon silang mas madaling access, diba? And then for the suppliers, so its customers will always buy from them, but few perceive alternatives, right? It isn't in a position to exert upward pressure on prices and to dictate trading terms to the customer rather than the other way around. So, for example, through external databases and, of course, now the internet, information systems can help businesses identify equipment and raw material suppliers much more efficiently than before, and so reduce the bargaining power of suppliers. And in relation to the five forces model, Porter's competitive, there are also the three, actually the four, oops, sorry, the four competitive strategies to counter the five forces which Porter has introduced to analyze external competitive forces. So first, we have the overall cost leadership. So it aims to become the lowest producer in the industry. Um, and then next, we have the differentiation. So it creates a product perceived industry-wide as being unique. So maybe for the overall cost leadership, kasi for us, it's still important kung siguro kung ano yung pinakamura. Or depende kung how we buy. But at least in the Philippines, I think that's how we buy things here. Kung ano mas mura siguro, dun pa rin tayo. Well, we look at the quality, pero kung may makita tayong mas mura, somehow parehas, I think we'll go with the lower cost. And then of course, for the unique, for being unique, so minsan may mga product na sabihin, kami lang meron ito and then ganyan, ganyan. So minsan, that's one of the competitive strategy din ng mga ibang mga companies para 'di ba mas maraming silang customers, mas maraming pumili sa kanila ng customers if they have this unique feature. Or maybe it's still dependent on how they market the product uh, uh, para maisip or at least ma-deliver siya sa mga customers na unique pala to sa kanila. And then for the focus, so it involves identifying and serving a target segment very well. So for iPhones, di ba, kahit gaano siya kamahal, meron siyang sariling customers kasi meron silang target market. So kahit gaano yan kamahal or whichever Apple products that they are launching, in-expect na nila yung mga customers na bibili. Di ba? Parang ano na yan eh. Yung sa may bago, I think may mga users na okay lang ako magpalit because they have this new model. So, alam na nila kung paano mag-isip yung customers nila. And then, lastly, it is when the firm it is unable to adopt any of the above approaches, and it ultimately at the mercy of competitors that are able to offer these approaches. So they're basically stuck in the middle. And then, for the third one that we can use as a tool for the business strategy, we have um, the Nolan's stage model. So this model demonstrates that an organization's approach to the management of information systems will change over time. So it demonstrates that with experience, well, over time with experience, an organization's approach to computer applications, um, specialist information systems, personnel, and methods of management will evolve to a level of maturity where the planning and development of information systems are embedded into the strategy or strategic planning process for the business as a whole. So there are actually six stages in here. So the first one would be initiation. So technology is introduced. Ito yung part na we introduce the technology to a growing organization. And IT personnel begin to learn the new technologies in which adoption is limited and user awareness is characterized as being hands off. So it requires, but still requires minimum planning and control is limited. So organization is newly exposed to IT. Companies uses technology for data processing. So very minimal pa yung paggamit nila for on this stage. So I mean, even if it's minimal use, it has started to be implemented. And then next would be the contagion. So managers help users who have been, alienated by the new technology. So they start to diffuse and people start to find the new uses for this new technology that was implemented. So during this stage, there is a lot of problems with the new technology. So nandiyan na yung mga or mga issues or challenges that they'll encounter kasi mas marami na yung users na um, gumagamit, right? And of course, and the third one would be control. So for control, organizations gain control over their technologies by placing centralized control. So the mechanism are put into place to control spending. So it shifts from management of computers to management of data resources. So it will start to realize its potential by this stage. So management puts more efficient systems in place, but employees are still lack of training or proper training. People are still frustrated, but start to realize what can be done with the technology. And then for the fourth one would be integration. Integration. So users learn how to use the technology, and people's frustration start to go down. Previous systems are integrated with the newer systems, so formal planning and control procedure within data processing is introduced. And then for the fifth will be data administration. It focuses on managing the organization's corporate data and more than the technology side. So it starts to be used for collecting and storing data across the board. So data is now important. So it is now used to analyze their performance. And then for the last one would be maturity. So um, the new uses technology. I mean, they uses the technology and it has integrated in the workplace. So the employees has adopted already or well adopted the technology that was implemented na nung una is very hesitant. I think that's normal naman. So everyone would be hesitant to, change what they've been used to in doing. Um, and of course, within the company, it has like the technology as well that is now helping them in every aspect, which help them more productive and solve the challenges that they have encountered. Okay, so for the last three of the tools, it will be discussed by Reddy.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, the fourth tool that we can use actually is the Mcfarland's strategic grid. So if you've noticed in the grid, actually there are four quadrants, right? Um, the first one is the turnaround, strategic, support, and factory. And then accordingly, um, in the x-axis, you can see the strategic importance of the current information system, while in the y-axis, it's the strategic importance of the future or the planned information system. So the grid basically is used to as it's defined, no, it's used to indicate the strategic importance of the information systems of the current and the future. So let's try to to think to check each of the sections now, the quadrant. So firstly, the strategic part, that's the green one. Um, it's basically indicates that the business depends on both the existing or the current and the planned or the future IS para ma-sustain yung competitive advantage of the company, because as you can see, it's both high, diba? So that's um, the strategic. While the next one is the turnaround, the pink one. While it suggests that the position of the turnaround does not currently derive a significant competitive advantage or benefit from its current, while the future has a potential that can improve the competitive position of the company. So again, as it's positioned in the high for um, future, and then a little bit in the middle of the current. The next one is for factory. That's the one in orange man. It's while basically it's just saying that it's dependent on the current for it to be able to operate competitively. Pero it's not saying that um, the future information system will have an impact to the company. And lastly, the support, it's the least, no, because in this grid, it's just saying it's because it's both low, diba? So it's just saying it will not and does not provide any competitive advantage um, or position in terms of the information system. In case um, as a company would include or add a new system to its current system. Parang ganun. So this grid is just trying to give you like a visual positioning of whether it will give you it will benefit or not the company basing on the different situations. Actually, if you read on the chapter 13, there's another more modified, no, grid that was done by Ward and Peppards, but we did not include it anymore. Um, if you have time, you can actually read on it. It's they even modified it more, which is actually it provides more specifically the different aims and approaches per category, if you can say that, like the strategic, the turnaround, the factor, and everything. They added more factors there that can clearly explain better the significance of this tool or this grid. But for just for the sake of understanding the specific Mcfarland's tool, we can use um, this grid for definition of the benefits of having an existing and a future system. Next one is the next one is the Michael Porter's value chain analysis. I think you guys have heard about value chain, right? It's very common. It's basically a framework for us to dissect, no, try to decompose the different um, activities and processes in an organization and try to determine what's its value, no. So in the slide, um, you can see the different work streams and processes from a primary, which is the process of, I guess the example here is the manufacturing, from the logistics to the operations to the inbound, outbound. Yeah, I guess to the different departments, so sales and marketing, up to the services part, um, up to the customer side, right? And then also the streams of the secondary activities, which are more on the administrative, the human resources, the product, R&D, and then the procurement. So in this list lang, Michael Porter is just trying to show the relationship between these primary and secondary or the support activities, and its value to the company. So in relation earlier to um, I guess to our activity, yeah. If you try to plot it into this um, figure, analysis, we would be able to, since we try to dissect it per activity and process, we will now be able to see for which element here will implementing or introducing an IS information system strategy would benefit the company. So it is possible, like for example, if you go back to the activity earlier, there are a lot of good inputs for each department, right? There's the input in terms of integration, so we'd be able to provide like a company view of the current system in terms of where we are, maybe in terms of financials, um, our profit and loss report, where we can see the different integrations of the expenses and the revenues generated via the reports also of other departments, maybe the manufacturing on how much they were able to produce, in terms of distribution as well, shipping with the different customers. So via that tool, we'll be able really to determine which section or which element here we can use information system strategy to further um, increase the efficiency of these elements. Um, yeah, so I guess that's really the main point of the value chain analysis. It's really to dissect each elements and be able to see which ones here would need further improvement via integrating or introducing an information system. Um, and then lastly, there's the critical success factor analysis. I think you guys also know this critical success factors. Um, in any business activity, usually, or any key decisions that, like for example, for each of your departments earlier, actually, you guys have mentioned earlier a few critical success factors. I remember Lance mentioned about, maybe, sorry, Jill, can we go back to the previous slides again for their inputs? We can just review quickly their suggestions. There are a few there that can already be considered as part of the critical success factors. For example, in terms of, yeah, here for the sales, automation. So maybe we can just expound that later on. But I guess via automation, one of the critical success factors is you'll be able to really know the stock level for your company, and of course the shelf life as well, to know if there's a need to replenish or restock. And then for the next department, um, for warehousing distribution here as well. Actually, this is already a good statement for as a critical success factor in speed up the processing, um, automation on the warehouse as well, which is to we want that we'll be able to know the best um, timing for us to be able to process the in and out in our warehouse of the materials, of the raw materials, and the delivery time as well. um, yeah, so those can be part of the critical success factors. And then for the next department, um, for manufacturing here as well, we want to know as part of the business that what are the priority levels of your materials, and then on your orders as well, or the requests, right? So that's one of the success factors. I guess we can say that for manufacturing, identify easily which are the priority requests that should be delivered um, at the earliest time, something like that. So these are just a few, and lastly for finance as well. Yeah, of course, success factors would be also to have be able to determine um, the account handlers who are able to produce sales results. Yeah, and then provide them with rewards. So yeah, I guess these are just a few of the critical success factors that we can think of based on your suggestions. So as what just going back to the definition, these are measures that indicate the performance or efficiency of the different parts of the organization. So I guess for this one, um, in essence, actually, for critical success factors, it exists in all of the functional areas. No, so we will for each of your departments, for sure you have to have a set of critical success factors, which will help you in terms of decision making. Um, for us to be able to choose correctly what's the best information system strategy that can be applied to your specific departments or functions. All right, so I guess that's a quick introduction lang on the last three tools. And I guess the last part of the session is the integration part, which Jill will explain for us.
Thanks, Danny. Okay, well, yeah, for the last part of our presentation would be about business strategy integration, well, information systems and business strategy integration. So, this section actually examines how strategic models can be applied to ensure that there is a good balance between business and information system strategy. The aim is to apply the tools that enables us either to align the IS strategy with the business needs, for us to use information technology to have a favorable impact on the business. But um, however, there are strategic alignment barriers. So if you could see on the illustration here, we have few alignment barriers. So first would be the environment. So it provides opportunities through the availability of technology. So there are also threats from competitors and constraints from external regulations. So IT portfolio comes next. So this comprises the IT infrastructure and the informational, transactional, and strategic information systems that is part of the portfolio. And then for the IT strategy, there are actually three aspects that needs to be balanced. So first one would be the role of the IT in the firm. So whether if it is a core or support function only. And then the next one would be the way the services are delivered. So the degree of centralization or decentralization and the extent to which services are in-house or maybe outsourced. And then for the last one would be the technology policies and standards as they relate to the acquisition and operation of hardware and software solutions. So um, for the strategic context, there are actually two aspects here that including the strategic intent of the organization as it drives long-term investments in the IT as an infrastructure. And the current strategy, which drives the acquisition of strategic informational and transactional information systems in response to changing internal and external needs. So if you can see here that there are also barriers that is aligning the business strategy. So it actually falls into three categories. So we have expression barriers, specification barriers, and implementation barriers. So you'll see that in these sections that they are separated into three, or at least categorized in three uh, barriers in when it comes to aligning the business strategy. So, as a consequence of the barriers that the organization can make significant investments in their IT portfolio, which do not necessarily lead to any real business benefits, there's this balanced scorecard process where we consider the influence of information systems in contributing to each area. So first one that we would like to consider would be the customer concerns. So pwede natin siyang, well, we can achieve this by maybe we could use a mystery shopper or maybe use of customer surveys, since customer satisfaction will be partly determined by the performance of customer facing information systems and directly determined by the quality of, like, let's say, any system that they have implemented. Of course, there are also internal measures that should be based on business processes that have the greatest impact on how customer satisfaction, or I mean, on how the customer is satisfied with the service or the system that is implemented. So we could consider the cycle time, quality, or maybe the employee skills, and also their productivity. So we can also identify the critical core competencies and try to guarantee market leadership. So for example, siguro for kung sa banking is yung ATM availability. Kasi 'di ba, if let's say meron tayong bank, sige, say maganda yung service, sabihin nila when it comes to um, attending to our banking needs kung pupunta tayo sa branch. Pero paano kung kailangan nating mag-withdraw? And then, very limited yung mga ATMs na meron around the area. So, di ba, talo na sila agad ng mga ibang bank kung mas marami yung mga options nila dun sa area na sinaserve nila ng mga customers. And then for financial measures, of course, we have to consider the profitability and the return on capital. And then for the last one would be learning and growth. So innovation and of course self-development would also affect when it comes um, to implementing business strategy or information system strategy. So maybe on this specific guide as well with the balance scorecard process. So for each of those for these areas, um, management teams will define objectives, right? And specific measures, targets, initiatives to achieve these things that are mentioned. So for some companies, the balance scorecards become much more than a performance measure. Um, I mean more than a performance measurement system, but it provides a framework for the entire business strategy process. So for further benefit of the scorecard is that it does not only focus on outcomes, but also considers the measures that are performance drivers. So, for example, siguro is if we could or if companies can make an investment when it comes to technology and employee training. So, I guess that's the end of our presentation. But we would this is actually something that is from the book as well. So let's yes, Teddy can at least discuss this for the last part.
Okay. Yeah, we just wanted to end the discussion with a statement in the document, no? That an effective strategy formulation process must embrace adaptation, organizational learning, and incremental development that reflect the constantly changing business environment. So, in the essence, basically, it's just that for us to be able to choose the best strategy for the organization or for the company, it must be able um, to adapt basically to the different changes in its environment. So yeah, I guess that's it for tonight. We hope you'd be able to get something out of it. So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, that's a very nice presentation from Jill and Teddy. Um, I'm not sure. I guess with the rest, I mean, if of course it's pretty packed, it's pretty dense. They've actually presented a lot of items, perhaps a lot of models towards the end of the presentation. If you guys have some difficulty understanding each and every model, then maybe you'd want to spend a little bit more time reading the chapter or doing some supplementary reading from the basic or the core references on where those models have been taken from. Before we close this out, this presentation by Jill and Teddy, do you guys have any questions for them regarding the topic on information system strategy?
Questions for them, I guess. Jill, meron ba? I mean, right now, because of the activity, hopefully we'd be able to. I mean, they'd be able to understand the relationships of the different strategies, no. In linking it with the company's goal as well. So maybe Jill, do you have any questions for the group, or for me, from my
No,
side, I don't have.
wala naman.
Okay, okay. What about the rest? I mean, meron ba kayong confusion or something that you'd like clarified that maybe Teddy and Jill can help explain a little bit? Wala naman. Okay, well, if there's none, then I'll stop recording for now.